We are back with a special live stream. Yes, it is a Sunday. Yes, it is still at the same time, though, and I am excited to be here. It has been just a crazy week. We got the holidays going on, and it's always hard to get on a specific day and time when it is this time of year. But I need to get you a podcast every week, so we're going to do one this Sunday, and I'll do one sometime next week as well. But this podcast is brought to you by Focus Cubed Habitats. Ashley and Steven are crushing it over there. Actually, they posted up a something on, I believe it was Instagram or Facebook, and it was a bunch of Arcadia lighting that they got in, and I hit them up and got this shade dweller that I've been looking for so damn long. So if you guys are looking for enclosures, please go check them out, focuscube.com, as well as, you can have things like Arcadia lighting put in your enclosure. And I was just telling some of them, one of my customers actually, they were saying, hey, is this vision cage going to be big enough for an adult female ball python? And not only do those cages have certain ridges in them, but things like Focus Cubed, they are basically building them specifically for us. So it's for herpers by herpers, as far as they're putting extra room in the bottom. So that's why I love them so much, is because they're putting extra room so that you can have the bioactive substrate. They are doing different customizations, and they are also doing things like mounting Arcadia lighting. So please go check out focuscubedhabitats.com, because they support this podcast and because they're good people. And so support herpers. Anyways, guys, portcitypet.com, you can check out that stuff. We have a bunch of substrates. We have Rapashi, and I have some animals. I am only going to be shipping out animals until Wednesday, and I'll be frank, I don't even feel that great about shipping now, because I have shipped probably 50% of the packages that I've shipped have been late, and 2 of them I think were 24-hour delays. And now it's a corn snake, and one of them was an adult female that was already cleaned out. So we just call that early brumation. But it's getting risky to really ship to certain parts of the country when you have 24-hour delays and stuff like that. I'm lucky I have corn snakes, and everyone arrived well. Usually heat is worse than the cold, but yeah, I don't really want to mess with these delays anymore. So please, if you're gonna buy a snake, go do it now, or hit me up now and then say, hey, I want to have this shipped whenever weather permits, after New Year's, and I can do that as well. So yeah, just let me know. Otherwise, we have an awesome podcast for you. Kyle, I had seen, posted this giant litter of these Candoya paulsoni, which is actually an animal that I used to work with that I really, really enjoyed. It's a ground boa from Madagascar, I believe. Right now, and Kyle's shaking his head. I forget. Oh no, Solomon Islands. I fucked it up. Did I get it, Kyle? There you go. It's Sunday. I can't be expected to remember this kind of stuff. But yeah, so he posted this amazing litter of those animals, and it's a lot of animals. So I can't wait to talk to him about it. Also, he's a longtime listener. You may have seen him in the comments, during these podcasts. So he's been a longtime listener and supporter of the podcast, and I'm so glad to finally get him on. I think I tried to get him on probably a year or so ago. I don't know why I couldn't drag him on here, but finally we got him. Kyle Phillips, president of the Idaho Herpetological Society. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, man. So
Good.
We got to start with how you got into herps.
I remember being a little kid in junior high in Iowa, and when I was in the science class, and the classroom garter snake got out, and I was afraid of snakes then. And I remember us trying to catch it, and it was just trying to get away. And I just thought to myself, as I'm jumping around, why am I afraid of the snake? It's not doing anything. It's just trying to run. That's when my aha moment for not being afraid of snakes started. Before that, when I was a little kid growing up in the Midwest, my parents would let me catch box turtles, and I'd get to keep them overnight and feed them strawberries and let them go in the morning.
Nice. So out there, which box turtle do you have?
I have no idea. I was 4.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't know. All these species are escaping my brain because when I was in
It's okay.
Colorado, the rescue that I worked with for a little while had like an outdoor pen with like all of the box turtles. I don't know if it's three-toed box turtles that are out there. Someone's gonna help me in the chat, I hope. But
I mean, they're still probably what's the most common ones found in the pet trade, which are what's native to the U.S. It was pretty fun.
yeah. So when did you start like legitimately keeping? Did that happen in adulthood, or did you keep as a kid besides box
Man,
turtles?
I don't know if I'm not legitimate still probably, but I probably started keeping when I was in 8th grade. I got a milk snake and I never ate. Traded in for a Honduran milk snake, and I had him for a very long time. Actually, used him to breed eventually. Uh, Before that, I dabbled in leopard geckos because the lady at the pet store told my mom that corn snakes would eat our cat, so I was not allowed to get a snake for a long time.
That's the most ridiculous statement ever.
I thought you'd like that one.
And those are ornate box turtles. I had to look it up. I couldn't seem
Nice.
that silly on the podcast. Twice in a row. It's not good.
That's all right. I gotta go get those Madagascar Candoya over here.
See, I got confused between the two different ground boas. You see what I did there? There's
I
some
know.
method to that madness, I swear.
That's all right.
So where'd you go from I mean milk snake unsuccessful. I mean that wasn't enough to keep you from keeping again.
No, not at all. Actually, only we had a couple pet stores here. We had a brand new Petco, PetSmart, and a local chain as well. And there was a lady who had been keeping snakes, her and her husband, for a very long time, who worked at Petco. Oh, she must have worked there like 25 years. And she helped me out a lot. Her name is Sue. I'll send her the link to this. Hi, Sue. She's pretty old now. She retired and moved to California. But she is super nice. She helped me out with a lot of things as I grew up. I had a lot of questions. And until I was able to go to a Herp Society meeting, that was the only person I was able to talk to about snakes.
Nice. So how did you or did you start in Idaho? Did you grow up in Idaho?
Oh no, we moved like every 6 months to every 8 months when I was growing up for my dad's job. So I was all over the country. Um, a lot of in the Midwest, but I ended up out in like Plastow, New Hampshire, down in Texas a couple times, and eventually ended up here in like early junior high out in Idaho.
Gotcha. So that was the Idaho Herpetological Society that you had gone up to?
Yeah, exactly. I don't even remember how I found out about them, but I found out about them, and I had just gotten my learner's permit, and I wasn't supposed to drive my car after dark, but I went to the meeting, drove it anyhow, and
Nice.
it was pretty awesome. I remember just going, and they had like the announcements at the beginning of the meeting, and they were talking about the rosy boas that they had given away from someone's litter the meeting before, and I was like wanted a rosy boa so bad, so I was like kept going to the meetings hoping someone would give me a rosy boa. It took like 4 years for me to get one, but that's
Nice.
what started it. It was pretty cool. There's a gentleman there by the name of Frank who was speaking about gopher snakes. He loved them so much. He was the founder of the society, and man, he was tearing up at the end of the speech, and he was just so passionate, and it made me feel so accepted because as a kid, when you're in junior high and high school, and you're telling everyone you want to be a herpetologist, all you get is a whole bunch of jokes about herpes.
Yeah, essentially. So when I mean for a lot of the people, maybe the younger crowd, modern herpetoculture, our gatherings are say podcasts like this, in the comments or in the comments of YouTube videos, Facebook groups. Can you explain a little bit of how herpetological societies work and kind of what the benefit is over, say, the current social media stuff going on?
Um, you know, it's a little different right now. I think some of the social media stuff kind of fills the gap of where societies used to be when there was no internet outlet for this. There used to be some old forums back in the day, but it wasn't the instant feedback. And you had to go follow the chain to find the picture you wanted to see. And with COVID right now, I mean, this is kind of really the society meetings we all get to experience. But now we're on a national timeless platform that everyone can always go back and use this resource. Where if you miss that meeting and that speaker that one time, you can never relive it. Now people can use this as almost like a historical reference. That's really putting it in. I mean, that's poor terms to use this as a historic reference. But if you're getting into it and there you find a video with the subject you're looking for, it can be really useful.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I've seen anyone post anything about having virtual herpetological society meetings right now and basically posting them on social media for everyone to enjoy.
It's hard. Most reptile people, not all of them, but a lot of them are very much not super social people. And getting them to come to meetings sometimes because they're so protective, they're so used to being isolated out from the rest of society because of what they have and what they keep, that they can be reluctant to really, expose themselves to the rest of the world. So it can be pulling teeth to get people to interact sometimes.
And how is the scene in Idaho? Because I know, just offhand, I mean, I don't know many herpers out in Idaho. So what's the scene like out there?
We got some good people that have been around for a long time. We got local guys that were around when I was a kid. A guy named Earl Moran. He was big when I was little. I probably annoyed the shit out of him. But he was a really nice guy. He still is. I go over and help him out now. I keep trying to push him more into Bloods and Borneos, which it's working. But he's kept some for quite a long time as well. You might like it. He does breed corn snakes. He's been working with his own line of hide-sided blood reds for a long time now, which I think is pretty cool because I don't remember seeing that when I was younger.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think I've seen that too much, recently. I mean, it's something that obviously we've had in the hobby for quite a bit, but I really haven't seen too many people posting up ones as of recently.
Yeah, he doesn't really post them, I don't think, but I think he's been working with his for like 10 years. He's got some with like white heads almost. I mean, they're pretty nice. They're pretty cool. And we got like, Ryan Young, he's up north. Luckily, I've been able to, become friends with him over the years. He's been a pretty nice guy to help me out with some advice, or when we go to, I've met him at shows, we go out for lunch. Okay, it happened one time, but I tell the story like it happens all the time. But he's a great guy. He's an awesome resource, and he's pretty well respected. Other than that, it's just a lot of local people. I think like it is everywhere. Like people that they might breed one species or two species, and they kind of keep to themselves. There's a lot of that, I think, but I don't think it's as big of a scene as like California or Florida. I mean, we don't have free range snakes like they do in Florida. We keep all of ours in our cages. But.
Well, you do have rubber boas, don't you?
We do. I still have never been able to find one, but I've only half-assed looked. I think I know where to go. I just haven't ever gone up there. But they're pretty cool. People find them all the time. They bring them and give them to the society because they're, the kid was taking care of them. They didn't want them anymore. So one of the society members ends up taking them, and they're pretty unreal, honestly.
So that's probably a tricky situation because I mean, technically, that's a protected species in Idaho, or no?
If you're an Idaho resident and you are able to have a valid hunting license, you can collect native reptiles. You are limited to a certain number of each species, which I believe is 4. I don't normally go out and collect. I might go out and look for them and try to take pictures. That's about as much as I do.
Gotcha. So when you were with the Herp Society, rosy bows and stuff like that, is trading a big part of what you do? Is that still something that goes on now?
Back when I was a kid, like getting in my late years in high school, holy moly, I would like buy, sell, trade, trying to like try out different species, get an experience, figure it out. It really wasn't for me. My friend would have something I wanted, so I'd go meet him. That lady I mentioned, Sue, her and I traded back and forth a few times because she would get stuff from the pet store that was too aggressive to sell, so she'd get it for free. Once I got it home, it wasn't even mean. So,
Isn't that how that works?
right.
Yeah. So when did you kind of make the transition into some of the more exotic pythons and stuff like that?
You know, I in my early to mid 20s, I had gotten out of snakes to get into horses, and I went with horses for quite a few years, and then I had the opportunity to kind of get back into reptiles, and actually my girlfriend, Christine, she encouraged me to get back into the whole scene and encouraged me to become part of the society again and help out. And you know, I thought about the species from when I was younger that I would always wanted to keep, but it was either didn't know where to get a good one was, or the information wasn't as prevalent, or I honestly was afraid of them because of their bad rap. I kind of went through the list and made a list of different species I wanted to have, and that's kind of where I went.
Yeah, I mean, did you go bloods and short tails right off the bat as far as once you get into pythons, or what was your first python?
Um, yeah, pretty much. I mean, this go around, I think everyone kind of with life fluctuating, you know, you might jump in for a little bit, but for some reason you have to sell things and you get back out. Um, the time before this, I kept for about 4 or 5 years. I did sand boas and I had ball pythons. Um,
You know you
and that's
can't
when I
say
met
stand
Brian.
boa when James is in the chat, right? You know it's not allowed.
Well, he knows I kept sand boas. We've chatted. I sent him some pictures of stuff I had.
Yeah, he just won't shut up about him in the chat now. It's like,
That's okay.
yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Sand boas, I didn't ever think were that cool until I kept them, but they were pretty fun. Um, but when I got back into it, instead of trying to keep what I thought was kind of trendy, I kept what I really always wanted to get, which was really blood pythons. Really had always fascinated me. I always remember reading the Pro Exotics articles in Reptiles magazine and thinking they were so neat. And they had such a bad rap, so it took me a long time to really just take the plunge, and I finally did. And it's I've become a hoarder. I have the problem.
So, what are you interested in when it comes to them? Like species wise, as well as morphs, or what are you into?
You know, I try to be pretty focused for the most part. I like to have nice reds. I have I really like stripes, so I have a lot of different types of stripes and different things that are stripes. Um, I'm excited that as I've bought different stripes I liked, that they're turning out to be like their own individual mini projects, or I have a whole lot of different things so that I can always mix and match and still get what I like, but maybe something really different or really cool. I've got some what they call zigzags, which are really nice. I like those. Um, I've got a slack line. I've got just some genetic stripes. I got a lot of albinos. I've got a P positive, anti-nig. Um, you know, I like them all. I do have some Borneo short tails and some Sumatran short tails, or the of the chrome head variety, not those dirty black ones. Oh,
Nice.
that doesn't sound good. Uh,
Hey man, those are the ones I like. I mean, I love well, both of those, all the Sumatrans are awesome.
I
Um,
can't like exactly what Dan Magana likes. I mean, so
so when you, as far as like sourcing out these animals and stuff like that, were you getting them on Fauna, Morph Market, Facebook groups?
a little bit of everything. Um, I've got a bunch of animals in this room from Ryan Young. Ryan, even back in the day when I knew him before because of ball pythons and other things, I knew he was very selective with what he had. I remember some of the ball pythons I had were like only one or two gene simple animals, and people had no idea what it was. But he was so selective with the quality of his animals that I just blew everything else out of the water. And that's held true with his bloods. They are very nice. Um,
How do you
Otherwise, I've got a
pick?
lot of. Go ahead.
how do you pick a good red? Because I know that they change over time, right? So what exactly are you looking for? I know you said there's a lot of
Well,
different patterns, but color wise.
I think there's a lot goes into that. It's like, what kind of red do you want? Do you want a brilliant like Twizzlers red? Do you want something that's like a strawberry pink red? Do you want something that's so dark red you're not even sure that's like an oxblood, like deep purplish red? Like you've got to figure out kind of which shades of red you want to go with, and that's what's really cool because you know, uh, really in bloods, they're some of the prettiest, if not the prettiest, are just the normals. But there's such a great variation in just the uh, brilliance of color. It's what palette of red would you like? And beyond that, you can go. Do you want something that's going to have bright yellow patterning? You want to have something that has high gray sides? I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff you can go with for selective breeding to really try and nail down and produce, like you've seen with some of the very good breeders out there, like Matt Turner, Kara. Um, man, I have a lot of stuff from Matt Turner. Oh my gosh, he's a nice guy. I've been able to chat him up a lot. He's been a lot of help to me too. Everyone's been really cool. It's been nice to have what I consider some friends, internet friends. It sounds more legit than an internet girlfriend, so I might as well just call him my friend.
Yeah, it is more legit. So, what are you as far as how does like a dark red animal with yellow? I mean, how does that translate in baby form? Can you tell from the parents?
I think lineage can really show you what you're hoping to expect. Um, I think that's your best bet. If you've got if you got two brown snakes, you might get one kind of reddish brown one. But you can't just expect to put two brown ones together and get really nice babies. You use nice to make nice, you get nice. As simple as that sounds, that's kind of what it goes with. And sometimes using those nice adults, sometimes you can get some amazing babies. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with breeding. I have my first clutch that hatched in June over here, and then I've got eggs due to hatch in about another 10 or 12 days in the incubator. Then I have another female due to lay in about 30 days.
So, can you tell us a little bit about that first pair that you bred?
I don't know if you remember the show you did about what to do when things go wrong. And I was talking about that snake that showed up with his busted face and everything.
Yeah.
Well, I actually paired him up with my T positive albino because they're both stripes. They're both really nice. And they're both super mellow. So I really was hoping to produce some nicely striped babies that were red and they were super mellow. And the striping didn't really happen. So what I think is that one of them is maybe a genetic stripe and one isn't. So I've got some kind of stripy looking patterns, but I think they're all going to be quite nicely colored animals, and none of them have ever struck, and almost all of them have eaten great from the beginning.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, were there any like hesitations, or I guess for the people who are looking to pair up their first animals? And I mean, blood pythons aren't really, those are large animals and they're pretty particular animals. Was there any considerations that went into doing that?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to consider. One time, always remember when you put two animals together, you're gonna get either more animals or less animals. One animal's gonna get hurt,
very true,
or die, or you're gonna understand that that's gonna produce more animals when you do that. Okay, and be prepared for that. The other thing is have a goal, have a vision. That doesn't mean just because you chose this path, you want to produce this type of animal. This is your vision. You want these beautiful bright yellows and these nice reds, and this is what you're going for. That vision will take you down the path of producing quality animals. Now, it might branch off into some other side projects that are of quality, but instead of just fumbling and stumbling around and just buying a couple of snakes that you found cheap and making more babies, it's not offering anything to the species or the hobby to further the species in terms of quality or furthering their better temperament or anything like that.
And now, are there any type of because I know bloods can definitely get some type of stress response, right? So, is there anything in which you have to be careful about?
I mean, I'm in like all the blood python groups. I'm a little less active than I used to be, but everyone always gets in. They get their new snake. They're trying to feed it for the fourth time by the fifth day, and they're also in the process of taming it during that first week. And my whole thing has always been less is more. Make sure your husbandry is right. Doesn't matter if you want a tank that looks beautiful and is huge and everything. That's not necessarily what's best for the animal, especially a new animal that's stressed. These guys and a lot of snakes really don't like a lot of space. They feel super exposed. They're not going to be happy. They're probably not going to eat for a while. In a while is usually my standards. I try after 14 days of them being here, and no interaction unless they went to the bathroom. Then it's just a maintenance interaction to change water or paper towels. I really just hands off, let them settle in. These guys, I've gotten some young adults before, and it took them 6-7 months to settle in. They used to flop outside of their tub, crawl around the floor, get in the corner under a table, and just pee all over everywhere like a loose fire hydrant, and then freaking hiss at me like no other. And they were just stressing themselves crazy. And it just took a while for the animal to understand that I wasn't going to harm them. I can pick up that snake without an issue now. But I used to get scared shitless. I didn't know what was going to happen with that snake. But it was 10-pound snakes just flopped around like a loose hose, and I can barely handle it.
Such an awkward animal when they don't want to be held too.
Oh gosh, yeah, they are. But if you just take your time, don't force things on them, work at the animal's speed. I think that's where most people make their mistakes. They want to do things the way they want it, and they want to do things at their own speed instead of what the animal needs and what the animal's speed is.
So you put these animals together. How exactly did you go about the actual pairings? As far as breeding, like how often, and were there any considerations with like weather pressure or anything like that, or seasonality?
I mean, I would. It's so dry up in here in Boise. Yeah. It's like a high desert. I mean, it's snowing right now, but really, I would just kind of watch the animals. I would kind of like watch the females. For the first 2 years I was trying to breed 2 females. I had a miss-sexed female. It was told to me as a male, which happens with these guys sometimes, kind of often even. And I was like, what the hell? These are the hardest snakes to breed. I'm talking to everyone. I'm like trying to figure it out. So when I had gotten that other male and he was all prepped and he was looking good, and I was like, man, he's definitely a male. Like I could tell he was a boy. And I saw his junk when he came in. It was impressive. And I was like, you know what? I wonder if that one male is a female. And I threw him in there and he locked up with her in like 5 minutes. I'm like, well, I feel like an idiot. But every year, if you ever get back into bloods, if you get in the groups, you'll notice almost every year there's someone who has a male that lays eggs. It is very common, it seems like. But it's fun, I like that snake quite a bit. Both of them are really nice. The female, I keep looking over. When I come in the room, she won't stop cruising. So I open the tub, and she just sticks her head out a few inches to look around, and then she goes back in. That's what, when she puts her head up, I look up over here at her. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I didn't know that, because usually we usually get, I guess that's the way we usually go, the other way, in which say I sell a female and it ends up being a male because I couldn't pop it correctly, or you couldn't get the hemipenes to pop. So I mean, at least I guess you had that male on deck, and now you have 2 breeder females. Did you want to, or were you feeding that female like a male?
I don't feed real heavy anyhow. I mentioned that gentleman Frank. He passed away pretty much exactly a year ago, and I was in charge of trying to find homes for all of his animals that survived him. And they're still alive now. His ball pythons that were wild caught, he got in I think they're imported adults, and he had them since like the late 80s, early 90s. So they're anticipated that they're about 45 years old. And
so It's
He
incredible.
didn't ever like push feeding. He just fed as they needed it. Uh, Maybe oversimplified way to put it, but I feel sometimes like some of the feeding charts that are out there are to maximize growth, maximize profit, get the animal to breeding size as fast as possible. As seen, and maybe in some groups of animals, you might see it a lot where people are breeding like a 2-year-old, year-old snake uh, because they fed it every other day, mostly ball pythons.
Yeah, and I wonder someone at home is maybe like, well, my care sheet says that ball pythons live to 25 years old. How is that happening? I don't know if you saw this story, but
Yeah,
that parthenogenic clutch from that 62-year-old python at the St. Louis Zoo.
exactly. And I think they probably had that snake on just a good regular schedule. They had no reason to feed it a ton or push it beyond its means in terms of accepting food. Um, so I think I take that as note. The other thing that happened, oh my gosh, I should not have drank carbonated water. Uh, is he had a blood python who passed away what was it, about 5 years ago, and he was like 32 years old. He was a year older than I was when he had passed away, and that was incredible to me. And he had kept that almost that entire time, and that's way back. If you think about the age of that snake, he had that snake when nobody kept bloods, and he kept it in a neodesha cage. And I mean, he was
Which is like
uh,
not what people do now, right? At all.
yeah. I mean, but if you think about what people are trying to do, sometimes they make the mistake about a fish tank. Neodesha is actually all sides are blocked out. Just the front is clear. So it's really actually quite a bit better than when a lot of people try to do it with the fish tank.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I don't know if no one or if you haven't seen neodeshas, they're like vacuum formed. So there's really not much. It's super simple, but there's also like not much humidity escape.
No, and they're
And
kind of like a weird slanted shape, and they always miscolored yellow.
yeah,
But
they
they
always
were like,
turn pea
yep, they're
yellow.
there. Yep. But they were like the go-to before visions really became available. And I mean, a lot of people still use them. They may be kind of cumbersome, but they still work.
Yeah, every once in a while you see a zoo collection or like Venom Lab or something, and then you see a good rack of neodeshas, and you're just like, oh, and they're unmistakable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I never had one. I never had the pleasure of owning one.
I've had them before. They're pretty cool. Uh, I wouldn't want to keep a blood in one just because of when they go to the bathroom. They pee a lot, and they like to tip over the water bowl at the same time. Might leave you a little turd in there too. Make nice soup, and I can just imagine that getting in the cracks for the sliding glass door and maybe leaking out over the edge or something. But
Yeah. So
messy.
what kind of, and because we're kind of alluding to it, when you are going to sell the babies and everything like that, like what considerations do you need to take when educating new keepers? Because there's going to be a certain group of people who want to put in a fish tank and stuff like that, and do they do well in that kind of situation?
You know, I have only sold two. They're to a local friend of mine who has short tails, and
Mhm.
he has two of my Borneos I produced a couple years ago, and that's only two I sell. I have the rest of the babies still. I've been so nervous to sell them to anybody that like I'm also attached and like I care for them. I don't want them to go into the wrong house, but that's something you have to face when you breed. I think you're producing these into the hobby. You can't keep them all. I mean, but I think taking your time, really establishing the animals, figuring out the best way you want to try and propose the animals in terms of, this animal is, if you want to provide an enclosure with it, if you're going to be willing to shipping or not, if you're going to sell it locally, do you feel like your local community is mature enough to care for the species you're working with? I mean, these are all things you have to kind of consider. I think once the weather gets nicer in the spring, I'll probably order in some shipping supplies and get ready to ship out some of these babies. I honestly have thought about putting these babies in a fish tank because I mentioned the mom comes out and just puts her head out and looks around. All these babies explore like crazy too.
Really?
No, they're not phased. They're not stressed. I almost wonder if like they could work in a fish tank, minus the ventilated top. Which now there's fish tanks or reptile enclosures that don't have a ventilated top, or you can cover them so you can keep humidity in. I wonder if these guys would be able to take it because nothing bothers them.
Yeah, because I think, a lot of times you at least see people say, keep them in a tub. These things do not move anywhere. They're very cryptic and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I think we say that obviously with ball pythons too. And then we see people who set them up in a certain way in which allows them to explore, and they usually take advantage of it. And it's probably, right? Like you may be swimming upstream a little bit with trying to start a fish tank. It may be a little bit harder, but like maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's better for the animal.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to say that for new blood python keepers to do that whatsoever. I
Right.
think get some savvy, some experience of years of different species under your belt. I've seen a lot of times where people have kept ball pythons for a long time, and they are trying blood pythons, and they are just having a world of issues because it's a different type of snake that requires you to read them and figure out what they're needing, and really pay attention to what they need. Where it's the ball pythons kind of like well, I mean they're very forgiving now. I remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, going into mall pet stores and doing the reading in the mid 90s online and in magazines. They were very hard to keep. They wouldn't eat. They were all wild caught. There was a lot of issues. Your corn snake was the go-to pet snake, and Burmese pythons and boa constrictors. Those were like the three mainstays of keep the snake right there. And then eventually, ball pythons came along, and I mentioned reading those reptiles magazines by Pro Exotics article specifically, and even on their old website, they talked about that they really felt that with years of work, that blood pythons could be the next ball pythons in terms of being tame, mellow, manageable, and easy to care for. Once that people understood how to care for them. Now, a lot of this information of really what temperatures they do well at, and really the more advantageous ways to keep them so you run into less issues is pretty available out there, but people still put them in 95-degree enclosures with that. It makes them feel exposed. The extra heat causes them stress, causes problems, where it's the information is at your fingertips. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of the amount of mutations, the amount of different looks, different phenotypes that are coming out of blood pythons, there's also probably almost as much. And I heard, is there a pied or something going on? There's probably just as many ways to go in these things, or there will be at least.
I think there was one or two caught and imported, and they're in someone's possession somewhere. That's all. Only people have only seen one or two pictures, but that's about it. If there's more information on there, I don't know it. I think from what I've seen on those pictures versus normals are prettier to me.
How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. So when you are getting babies started, coming into the enclosure and getting those eggs for the first time, talk about kind of the setup and everything like that for the eggs incubation.
Oh, I have a friend locally. His name is JD Morley. His son wanted to get into geckos when I was part of the society, like pretty heavily, and so they started buying geckos and everything. And I was, there helping him out, kind of talking to him. And now JD does geckos all on his own. His kid's gone. And one of the things he does is he builds an incubator. He takes fridges, freezers, whatever, and he puts fans in them, messes with the circuitry, and puts heat tape or heat cable in there, puts false ball. So he made me an incubator, and I've got it set up with a herp stat, and I've got it set at 86.5. And when I use I have 16 temp guns of different brands, so I kind of know roughly what the variation is, and I temp them, and they're usually right around 86, 85 point, 6, right in there. and I've got them on vermiculite that has barely any water on it, and then 2 holes on the sides of the tubs. Excuse me, I have them in perlite, the white stuff. And on the bottom of the incubator, I have a tub full of water with no lid.
Oh, so you're basically you're humidifying the whole incubator just as
Yeah.
much. I mean, really less in the box, more in the incubator itself.
Yep.
I mean, that really makes a lot of sense, right? Because like eggs wet, I mean, they don't fare very well wet, but you want that humidity.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. When I had gotten my first Borneos, I was shipped a gravid female without knowing it, and she laid eggs, and I panicked because I didn't know they were in there for a couple of days. So they're little dented ends. So I didn't have an incubator ready. I had one sitting there, so I threw it together super fast, and I was worried about it, so I had lots of water. Well, I had the water level too high in with the media, and a bunch of the eggs had gotten wet, and so they out of 15 eggs over a month span, I ended up with 5 because they had gotten wet, and I just couldn't recover. But the 5 babies I got out of that, I kept one. I sold the other 4 locally to my friends, Earl and Josh, and man, they're some nice babies. It was kind of a nice little surprise. The mama had been produced by Nick Botini, and nice snakes.
Nice. You're a lucky guy. We're gonna get back to that because that's gonna definitely come around later in this conversation as well with gravid females.
Oh yeah. I don't know if that's lucky, dude. Holy
or or
moly.
cursed. I don't know.
That's pretty fun though. It's different for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting those babies out, the bloods are the ones who take a while to shed, right? Those are the guys
actually
that shed.
my babies, one of them just shed. The first one to shed was like yesterday.
Nice.
They have taken forever to shed.
But
and
they
it's not
eat
even the
before
biggest
they
one.
shed, right?
Yeah, they've eaten like 20 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the biggest one in there is not even shed. When I'm doing this, I'm looking at the babies. I'm staring at them. So.
And how do you take them from out of the egg? Do you keep them together? What do you do? Do you separate them immediately?
So what I do is usually in the last 2 times I've ever done it the whole time ever, I've taken a tub of water and very shallow, and I've got it to the same temp as inside of the incubator, and I put them in the water, and they live together communally kind of for I don't know how many days, 4 days maybe, 3 days, 2 days. I can't remember. I just kind of watch them, and then I think they're ready to go ahead and go into their own tubs. It seems like, I don't know, if keeping them together that time makes them less nippy because they're bumping into each other all the time. They're less defensive, but it keeps them definitely keeps them very hydrated, and they got the little belly button that's closing up, and it really lets that close up. And of course, I'm changing that water quite a bit. But it's worked out really well. It's some good advice I got from several experienced blood guys or people, and it's worked out really well. I like it.
Yeah, that's what's weird about that animal is like they're these little swamp slugs in which most animals, if you have them in water, you're looking at like scale rot or something like that. But then I've seen ones that are, if they're out of water for a certain amount of time, they look desiccated rather quickly. So like humidity is super important in the beginning there, huh?
Yeah, and I think it's something that everyone has to figure out because everyone's climate's different, everyone's house is different, and their setups are different, and their heating source is different. So different heating sources might dry out humidity faster than another. You might have a tub with fewer holes than another person. Because a person with a whole bunch of holes is going to struggle with keeping that humidity constant. You just got to find that balance that works for you in your house, and watching what your snake does. And part of that's watching if their skin looks kind of extra crinkly. If their scales will feel kind of rough if they get too dry. If you get them too wet, they look like I guess kind of wrinkly and shiny. But for the most part, I feel like I've experimented. I've got some tubs right now. I put a lot more holes in than normal. I struggle with it a little bit more. I think I might just tape up a bunch of the holes. But it does hurt to experiment and figure out, if the snake's not having cause harm, there's a lot to always be learned. There's a lot of things to try. Like one thing I've been doing is I just throw random different substrates in on top of their paper. I don't know if it makes them happy or not, but there's some that it seems like it makes them chill out a little bit more. But that's probably not true.
Hey, I mean, trying a bunch of different things is always important, and it's like, this isn't exactly a formula. We're not really baking a cake, so do your own thing.
The whole experience reminds me back when I had that one Honduran milk snake for so many years. That dude he started out on AstroTurf, then he went to Reptibark, then he went to only moss, like 3 inches of moss. Then he went to Aspen. I kept on white calci sand for a while. I mean, that dude lived on absolutely everything, and he was flawless. So, I mean, you just, do I recommend people do that? No. But, that was a learning experience for sure.
Yeah. Well, Klubers are like the Honda Civics of they just keep on going. Yeah. But when blood pythons, you separate them out, all that good stuff. Do you feed live right off the rip, or do they eat frozen thawed?
I don't remember. I think I tried both. I'm trying to remember what I did. I think I got a whole bunch of them to eat frozen thawed right off the bat. That's what I did. I had frozen thawed, and I got them to eat. And if they weren't interested, I scented the baby. What did I use? Like mouse fuzzies, small mice, whatever they were. And I scented them with some chicks. I had a whole freezer full of chicks, and I scented them with that. And a whole bunch more took it after that. And then eventually they just all took. A couple of them didn't eat, so I did offer some smaller mice for them to get them going. But the live was actually my last resort on these babies. So,
do you ever consider things like feeding chicks, or obviously you have them frozen for a reason? Do you mix up diet at all?
On these babies, I haven't. But in general, yeah, usually I do. I do feed chicks to a lot of snakes in here. There's some of the bloods aren't as big as they might could possibly be because they got a full year of chicks only.
Is that kind of an easy availability for you, or what was your idea there?
I wanted to try and mix it up, and I had a few other species that I wanted to try chicks with as well. And there was a sale at a hatchery or something I found online where if I got male chicks of whatever species I wanted, I got them for like, what I got like 140 of them for like $70 ship. And ended up being pretty cheap.
Yeah, people don't realize that there's a lot of byproduct from these poultry farms, these male chicks, and I mean they essentially give them away for free. Like they're so cheap.
The downside was I was at work all day and they ship them. They're live, so they're at the post office. They keep calling me, "When are you going to come get these chicks? They're stinking.
Yeah.
Come get them." And eventually I left work a little early, went and got them, and I had to gas them all and put them in the freezer.
Those
which was
adorable
really sad.
little chicks.
Oh my god! They sent me some of the prettiest chicks ever, and I go, "Oh, I'm going to hell." I put them in the baggie.
Yeah. So mixing up diet. I feel like a lot of us, because customers or people who are going to buy your babies, they're going to be feeding rodents. So at least I try to always, and you probably doing the same thing with the frozen thawed. It's like everyone wants their animal on frozen thawed rodents. So that's what you kind of go with.
Yeah, because I refuse to ever keep rodents ever alive. I will never breed them. I will pay somebody to do that dirty work for me. Always.
Yeah, I did it for a little bit. I'm back on the snob wagon when it comes to never doing it. So yeah.
I worked in pet stores for too long, and I remember we had this whole group of rats that came in that were sick, and they went out for testing, and they came back inconclusive for the bubonic plague. We had to put them away, we had to put them down. But in the meantime, caring for 50 rats in this small enclosure for isolation was disgusting. It was the grossest thing I've ever done. So.
Yeah. Oh, there's someone at my door.
Uh-oh.
Memento. I don't know what you want to talk about.
Hey, just go answer the door. It's okay. Let's see. People listening. Hey.
What's up, man? I'm doing a podcast right now. Yeah, I forgot to fucking text you back. Since the gym's closed and work, since we sell like home fitness equipment, it's been fucking nuts. But I need this to go to sleep because I haven't.
Hope everyone's enjoying the podcast and the live video.
Thanks, man.
I'm sorry, Joe left. I guess it's not important to him. He'll come back eventually.
Oh yeah, masked up. That was my neighbor giving me a Christmas present.
Oh, that's nice.
What a guy.
Does he know you do a podcast?
Now he does.
Oh.
Yes, Darren, it was the booty call.
It's the COVID police. You have a gathering.
Yeah, they heard too many voices in here.
Yeah.
So that's an adult male or female?
Oh, this is the female. I leave the tub open when I come in here. She's the mom to my babies. Yeah, she's got like a stripe, you know.
And that's essentially a wild type, right? I mean,
oh, this is an albino. This is a T positive albino.
Oh, okay.
Or, you know.
Oh, I've got to stop assuming I know anything about snakes today.
They're from Madagascar as well.
So she's just that chill though. You open up the tub and you just take her right out. That's awesome.
Well, I had to get the hook because she like looked at me like I was maybe food for a second. So I was like, oh shit.
It's it's also that time of the day where it's where the snakes are a little bit more reactive.
Yeah, I didn't want to scream and get bit on camera because that totally would freak the shit out. But she's never struck at me. It would have been an accidental, mistaken one, that's for sure. But you know, it's pretty easy to read these snakes. They telegraph what they're going to do. So if you open your tub and you look at it, they give you the quick head turn and up. They're thinking maybe they're going to get food. They're ready for food. You better have a snake hook ready to, let them know, hey, no food's coming. Chill out. I'm just going to pick you up.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that people don't realize in the beginning. You say like, oh, my snake bit me, not realizing that like it may have been your fault as far as whether it be time of day or getting to know that particular animal, when they're going to act like that, when they're not, or like just straight up putting your hand right in front of their face when you're getting them out of the enclosure and stuff like that. Mistakes still happen, or if you're going fast, you'll still make a mistake here and then. But I mean, so much of it is just kind of staying away from the sharp end and knowing your animal.
Right. Yeah. I felt pretty awkward once you left. I was like, I'm going to get a snake out. Yeah.
When in doubt, just whip it out. Morgan Rose said, is that normal size for an adult female?
I think so. That's pretty average. I think they can be a little bit smaller. They can be a little bit bigger, just like people. I think people really don't put that in perspective sometimes with these exotic species. They think that everything has to fit this size, and they forget, people vary in size and even body shape. And the same thing with the snakes. You may have a species that is generally kind of heavy body, but you might have a little bit more slender built one, or one that's a little bit more heavy bodied. It's just the variance is natural.
Right on. So, damn, I had a question and it slipped me right there. But oh yeah, is there a weight that you're looking for females? I mean, we know ball pythons, females 1,500 grams. You hear all the time. Is there something similar?
There's some guidelines a lot of people go by, like they want their females to be at least 12 pounds. I don't weigh them. I just kind of go by like the age and body condition, and I think they're ready. For me, I try to hit, if it's a snake I've raised or I've had, or I know how old it is, I try to have them be ready to go at their 5th or 6th year. I'm not looking to go before that. You can definitely do that. You can definitely have them go at 3 years old if you'd like. But, I'd rather have the maturity and the size all together in one package. And no, in my mind, from my experience over the years and things I've read, seen, experienced, the maturity is sometimes what people forget. They'll have something grow so fast, but maturity is not there when they breed it, and they can have some complications. Now, is that anecdotal? Quite possibly, but it's what I think happens. So I'm trying to limit, that saying, something Frank used to say was, put two animals together, you're going to have either less animals or more animals. I don't want to have a less animal because I bred a snake too early and I caused it some sort of complication that was avoidable if whether I waited another year or two, make sure the size finished out maturing, the body weight was correct, whatever it is, I'm going to do as much as I possibly can to make sure that this animal is going to live as long as it can and be as healthy as it possibly can while I'm in charge of its well-being.
Yeah, it seems like we're seeing more and more keepers and breeders right now kind of taking that approach. The lower feeding frequencies, just taking your time, thinking about the long-term health of the animal. And and like we're not in the rat race anymore. I don't think there's still blood people who are in the race, right? But
I mean, as soon as there's banana blood, I mean, everything's out the window.
That's the thing. It's like yeah, I guess 12 pounds is that limit, but also, or I guess is that marker in which they said that they're ready to go. But yeah, man, I've always found that time with my animals is just more important.
Like this female I have up here from Matt Turner. She's going on 5 years, and she's just a smaller animal. I've fed her quite well, or since I've had her for a couple years now, and I've just kind of come to the conclusion that she's just a smaller animal, and so she's been pretty swollen up. She's coming out of blue. She'll shed, and it seems to be consistent so far. That with my temps and how I keep, because I do provide belly keep, that the females are laying their eggs about 25 days after they come out of their shed.
And are you seeing, or do you expect to get, less eggs from that smaller animal? Is that, you think that would be the only drawback?
The albino female I just had out is smaller than this other female I have down here, and she had more eggs than the big girl who has eggs in the incubator. I literally had no idea what she was going to give me because she's my biggest blood, and she gave me 11. So
like, okay. 11 is in as far as bloods go, what's the normal clutch size?
So far I've had 15, 15, and 11.
Okay. So that big girl's even on the lower end.
I don't know about that one, but just in my small experience of breeding them, yeah. And I'm not very experienced in breeding. There's a lot of people who are in the community that can really talk more about that. Who've got a lot of data that they can provide with saying that I got this large of a female, and then she consistently produced this many eggs. But I think it's just one of those things where, like, some people procreate quite a bit, some people procreate quite a bit less, and maybe the snakes are the same way.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some Mormon snakes. I would really need to really get this thing going.
Man, I don't know what to say about that.
Sorry, I just offended the whole Mormon community.
There's a huge community of that out here, and then
there's a lot of listeners of the podcast that are Mormon as well. There's just a big demographic, so
they don't practice that much anymore, anyhow.
I see.
Yeah. Well, so, they have a lot of. I mean, they have a lot of kids, and they're really nice families, but they don't do like the one husband and like 5 wives.
Oh, really?
No.
I mean, my snakes do it though. I mean, how many? So when you have a male, how many females are you willing to pair that animal with?
1, because I have. That's my goal. That was my idea to make those 2 animals, to make the greater version of the 2 of them combined. Whether I think I see something in color hues that I think these 2 animals will support each other and make an even nicer offspring. If they don't go, if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to throw something in there just to make something. I'll let them go and just keep on going until they're ready to go. I mean, I don't want to make things that are just out in the world, not attributing to the hobby.
So you have, I mean, curated a very like particular group of animals, and really you're looking for just very specific things in low numbers as a hobby to further the species.
Kind of. I mean, eventually all these snakes I have that are 1, 2, 3 years old, they're not too far off from being adults and ready to go. And then I'll have about 50 bloods that are breeding.
Oh, so shit's
So
escalating quickly. Yeah, there you go.
yes, yes,
Dude,
exactly.
once it gets rolling, and then you start holding back snakes, and then you accidentally have like 200 of them, man. That's
Oh,
you
thank
have
goodness.
babies growing up. And,
I
oh
have
my,
one hold back from my clutch. I would show her, but she's like in her first shed. I just looked at her. But she's like my favorite right out of the egg. She's been the best eater out of the egg. She's got the best color. She's 3 times the size of her siblings because if one of them didn't want to eat, I gave her the mouse. But she's
nice.
just now going into blue.
So you already have, I mean, you haven't been selling them, but you do have a designated holdback.
I have one, yes. I have one that's just kind of cool looking. I don't know, but everything else is going to be for sale. I had some issues. One thing I really noticed about babies is I feel like they really work off of momentum. Once you get them going, you got to really keep pumping the food into them, keep them going, keep that feeding response going on them. What were they? They were like a month or two old. They were all doing great. I had several meals into them. I was really happy. I had twins in this clutch actually. The only ones that weren't eating on their own were the twins, and the smallest twin did end up passing. But what had happened is I did get COVID, and I was afraid to come in here and really interact with the snakes as much as I honestly had like no strength. I'd walk 10 feet and I'd have to sit down because I thought I was going to pass out. I'd be out of energy for like 20 minutes. So I was basically able to come in here, dump water in the water dish for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then I would go back and go to sleep for the rest of the 20 hours of the day. And that really that set me back. All but about 5 or 3 of these kind of went off feeding. And now I'm starting to get momentum back that they're actually having a feeding response again. It was pretty frustrating, but there's not a whole lot I could do. I mean, I couldn't ask someone to come over and take care of them because my
Yeah.
girlfriend and I both had COVID, and we're
Yeah.
sitting in here. It was just kind of a crappy situation. But everyone's bouncing back and they're all eating on their own, except for the twin that's alive. It still doesn't want to eat on its own. So, but I've heard that about twins in a lot of species. So, I don't know that it'll ever leave. If it does, it'll go to a friend for free or something. But
What's the size comparison of the twin compared to the rest of the babies?
well, the small twin that died was like maybe 10-20% the size of a regular baby. It
Damn.
was there was definitely the one twin that's still alive was 70% bigger than the other one that was in the egg. It was a really cool experience, really fantastic. And the snake had passed when I had COVID around that time. So I wonder if maybe if I wasn't able to be on top of it more, I could have assist fed him, kept him going, maybe like pumped him up to a size where he just really had appetite. And I would definitely would have kept him as well because he was so tiny. It was like super endearing, but it was sad. But that's one thing you got to understand is there's going to be heartbreaks. There's going to be a low points when you are keeping, and especially if you breed. Not everything's going to survive. You may get something that's going good uh, for weeks, months, and all of a sudden it's just dead, and you don't know why. But we can't tell what kind of abnormalities or issues they had from the beginning.
Yeah, especially, I mean, in that situation, you have one that obviously absorbed much more of the yolk than the other.
Mm-hmm.
That one, it's just like was outcompeted from the beginning, right? So it's like that was just
Yeah,
weaker
I mean
genetics. I mean, technically.
they were all like healthy and super active and looked great right out of the egg. But you could definitely tell it was just smaller. And I knew it was going to be hard. And I remember right before it had passed, I was able to get it a pinky. I assist fed it, and it ended up spitting it back up and died the next day. So
Ooh. How is it feeding feeding baby bloods? Assist
well,
feeding.
that's really That's easy. I mean, I don't do it to all of them. I just had to do it to one or two. And for the most part, it's just really tiny prey, I found. I'm not going for a big meal. I'm just going for small prey so I can get it in there. And they realize that they can't spit out, so they just swallow it. And if you'd like, you can follow it up with another slightly smaller prey item as a choo-choo train type of deal. And but you know, I don't recommend people to necessarily try it unless there's someone experienced. It's not forcing it to them. You can injure your animal. Some people refuse to do it. They feel like if they didn't have the feeding response from the egg, then they're just going to die. I looked at the animals and I evaluated. There was no kinks. There's no visual issues I could see. Their body weight was good out of the egg. So I just felt like mostly it was because they were twins. They were going to be a pain in my butt to begin with feeding. And they definitely were. But, we'll see. If it kicks in at some point, great. If not, I'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Yeah. I mean, that might be one of those situations, huh? If it does survive, you were so hands-on with that animal. I mean, that's one of those that's going to be hard to let go.
Yeah, that was actually like my first blood I ever had. I had bought from a friend. He had this crazy pattern, like banded looking blood with a crazy cool head pattern. And I worked with that animal. It wouldn't eat, and I just fed it for like 7-8 months. Rat tails. And eventually I actually got to feed on its own. It was eating African soft furs. And after like the third meal, I just will go in there one day and it was just dead. I was so excited. It was the coolest looking little snake, and it was just dead. And it turns out that I think there's a temperature spike in the clutch, because I think the majority of those animals ended up dying over that first year. And they had some body deformities as well. And I think that pattern was part of the temperature spike as well.
Yeah, I guess that's common across all species then, as far as the pattern formation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when it going from bloods to getting into a new project, can you talk a little bit? Well, do you have anything other than bloods, and before we go into what we're going on?
Yeah.
What I'm going to be
Yeah, I
talking
do.
about?
Actually, way back when I was a kid, I was going to the society events and stuff. There's a local guy named Mark, and he had a imported pair of Coyote super dwarf retics, and they were imported adults. And I freaking loved them.
Before they were cool.
Yeah, this is like back in like 2001, 2002.
Oh wow!
And I love those things. Those were the coolest snakes. I always interacted with them, and when I was a few years ago, I ended up getting a super dwarf from Garrett, and I had it in here, and he was super fun. I loved him, but my setups weren't the greatest for a retic. I found out he really needed a large enclosure to explore. As a lot of retics do, he was getting the nose rub, and I made the decision to find him a better home. My friend Josh with Southern Idaho Reptile Rescue has him, and the funny thing is that Josh actually grew up with Garrett in California when they were kids.
Really?
Like their families know each other, so it was like, hey, this is fitting place for him to go and be a good outreach animal. And that's really what I got him for, was to be do outreach. And then I ended up being like such a helicopter parent and all my snakes. I never wanted to take them out to do your outreach. I didn't want someone to like squeeze them or get a disease from someone else's trash snake or something like that. So no, not that people are trash snakes, but I was just so nervous about mites, disease, cross-contamination, and everything. So he never left the house hardly. I do have a pair of I have a pair of Maclots.
Oh, nice.
Both from Ryan Rung. I got the adult male from him, and they're my girlfriends. We went to an expo, and he was there vending, and my girlfriend wanted to buy a snake, and she was looking at some stuff that a bredli from Nick Mutton, and I went over and I talked to Ryan, and I was like, you should buy something from Ryan, because I knew him. And she's like, what about this one? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And so I opened a little deli cup. She's holding a little Maclots female, little hatchling, and just bit the crap out of her 100 times, and she didn't flinch. She's like, oh, I like it. Let's get it. And so now I've got this pair of Maclots. The male is really chill. Female's gotten a lot better as she's gotten older. The male's like 8 feet long. He's huge. Those are a couple of the ones I feed a lot of chicks to, so they don't get like super fat, and they seem to do pretty well on that. But I'll mix in rats and chicks in the same meal. I have a pair of striped spotted pythons from Ryan Young, which are also my girlfriends. And then I have a wheat belt Stimson's python from Ryan as well.
How do you like the Antaresia so far?
Dude, I kept a spotted python when I was in high school, and I loved them. I don't think I interact enough with these guys because I just get eaten to death with them. Like they are just like a 100% feeding response. They've only gotten worse as they've gotten older.
It seems like the more people I ask, it seems like people have very varying experiences with them, which is why I always ask. Because some people are like, "This thing is the nicest," it's basically a corn snake. Why doesn't everyone have these? And others are like, "It's eating me constantly."
Yeah, I think I could work with them a little bit more, but they're just not my focus. They're my girlfriends. Even though I love them, I remember I loved my spotted python back in high school, and he was so chill. But these guys, it's 100% a feeding response. And as it is what it is. But we've got some tarantulas. Those are my girlfriends. She didn't have any of this stuff when we met.
I was gonna say, what happened there?
She encouraged me to get into it, and I'm like, hey, what are you always interested in? You're encouraging me to get back to this. This is great. What was stuff that you always wanted to keep that you couldn't keep when you're younger? She's like, I always like spiders. And I go, oh, okay. And so we've gotten some tarantulas, and it's been a learning experience. And it's pretty cool. People always ask if we handle them. I go, no. They're like a dryland fish tank. We watch them. They're very fascinating to watch. Some of them are really pretty. Some of them scare the shit out of me. But it's pretty cool, honestly. But I'm not going to hold them. When there are spiderlings and I was moving them from cage to cage, I let them crawl on me. That's about as much as it went.
So what do you have as far as like New World, Old World? I don't know much of the difference, but what kind of tarantulas do you have?
I have no idea.
Blue ones.
I forgot, I kind of forgot most of their scientific names, but we do have a curly hair that we got as like a free little spiderling that was like this big, and now it's like this. We've got a couple of versicolors that I just got her for Christmas that are little spiderlings, which are really, really cool. We got a pumpkin patch spiderling. We've got it was a spiderling, but it's mature now. It's a green bottle blue. That thing's really pretty. What else we got?
So is this really what the versicolors look like?
Yeah. See the one that's like kind of the top right, the one that's like super blue? That's what the little babies look like.
Really?
I'm not even kidding. Like their legs like super long. That's really cool. They're like
it looks like the Iceman, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Iceman in Batman. And that version of Batman. You know what I'm talking? Only so many people get that reference, but yeah.
Oh my god, that's funny. What do we got? Red rump tarantula, blue-footed baboon. I think I've got like a Chilean something Chilean dwarf tarantula. I can't remember what it is. We got like a black velvet Brazilian, I think. But
so you basically have really cool stuff. You don't just have like a Mexican red knee. Not that those are.
I don't have any of those. No.
You have the ones that you're not gonna play around with.
I'm a huge wuss. I'm not messing with them at all.
No, I wouldn't either, to be fair. They're cool, but
they're pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, snake wise, I used to have Hondurans. I got some Hondurans again a few years ago, and I sold them off. Actually, I sold one to my boss. His kid, his name's Colt. He might be watching. What's up, Colt? He has a nice little albino Honduran for me, and then he's got a hypo boa, and then he's got a new pied-sided blood corn snake.
Oh, nice.
So he's pretty excited about snakes. Scott comes in, he tells me, my kid just gave me a PowerPoint of how we should buy another snake. And I think he's like 11, so it's pretty funny hearing that he's going through all these means to convince his parents to let him get more snakes. And Unfortunately, I'm an enabler, so they asked me for advice or help finding them one.
Well, when you see like a young kid with enough passion to go that far and like do that kind of thing, it's like it's hard not to want to, encourage
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he's doing a good job. I saw his enclosures the other day. He's doing really good.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm excited for him. Hopefully he does better in the long run than I have, because when I was younger, I killed a lot of animals, either by giving bad advice or not knowing where to go for good resources.
Well, yeah, it's like a mixture of things. There weren't as good and available resources as there is now, and you didn't
Yeah,
have a Kyle Phillips that worked for your dad.
yeah,
So, like,
right,
uh,
right.
yeah, it's just, and then you get to give someone a more positive experience, even though that never deterred you, which is impressive. But more
Yeah.
positive experiences, the more you're probably gonna want to get more snakes and play with more snakes.
Oh yeah, and I like lizards too. My friend mentioned Josh, the Southern Idaho Reptile Rescue. I just gave him my Uromastyx because I needed to build him a big, nice enclosure for him, and wanted to do a lot for him. I had uh, what did I have? I just forgot what the hell I had. Niagara Ventus, Uromastyx. It's Moroccan. I had a Moroccan. He was like a little neon lime green, really nice, a little lizard. He came in through the Herp Society. He came in kind of an olive, like blackish green. Once I got his enclosure set up right, um, gave him proper lighting and heat, man, that guy like just turned on like highlighter, like green and turquoise. He was awesome.
Yeah, this is an insane animal. What? That is nuts
But
looking.
yeah, if you know anyone that's looking for like a lizard that's actually really low maintenance, is super cool. Uromastyx, hands down, are like the most awesome. Despite the lighting that they have to have, they just eat vegetables. They are super unknown for biting. They're very personable. They're really cool. Their colors are amazing. They're long lived, around 30 years or so. They're really like a little tiny dinosaur. They're just an awesome species to get into. If you can get capture bred ones, I absolutely recommend getting a capture bred. It's such an awesome experience.
Are these high heat, low humidity animals?
Yeah, so 135 degrees is the
Hell
maximum
yeah.
spot, I believe. I think I had set up for that guy on his rock. So he could go up to that much or a little lower, and then I think 80 or so is low end. But they can sustain pretty decent low temperature drops at night in the 70s. So, really easy to have in your house.
Oh, so you can just set up a timer with like a light bulb or something. But like, what kind of
Yeah.
light would you use for that?
I had like a fluorescent tube light for UVB, and then I also used a mercury vapor bulb that was UVB and heat. So he had like tons of UVB because they actually need much higher percentages of UVB than a lot of other species, and that's why he was so much happier. He just like his color just like turned on. He was amazing looking. It's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
those are awesome. There's also like an ornate one, right?
Yeah,
That's
they're a little bit smaller, but like they come in like the most incredible colors too.
Yeah, and it's like you wouldn't think that it can get better than that animal that I just showed. But I mean, this thing is also very, very cool. I'm about to bring it up in a second. I mean, this thing is green and blue and yellow.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
They're pretty cool. They're a little bit smaller species, and a lot of people keep them. They're real personable. They interact with you, and they're pretty fun. But the colors are just they blow a bearded dragon out of the water.
oh, 100%. Why are they not more prevalent?
They're not. They don't breed like a bearded dragon. They don't lay like 50 eggs all at once, 4 or 5, 6 times a year, or whatever beardeds do. Because it seems like anyone can. I mean, really, with little effort, can seem to breed bearded dragons. Takes a little bit more effort and finesse, I think, to get your Uromastyx. And I think they only lay a hand, like what, 2 to 6 eggs at a time. They really don't lay a lot at once.
And you
I
said
never bred
it's,
them, but
it's literally just all vegetables, no crickets, no
yeah,
any of that.
no crickets. And then their vegetables are very particular of what diet, what things they can have and what frequency. But it's pretty easy. Really cool lizard. I mean, eventually I'll buy a house and I'll set up a super badass Uromastyx enclosure and have a bureau again. But at the time, I was surprised with 54 babies, and I had to make the sacrifice of, am I really doing him justice? I haven't built that cage he needs, and I have all these damn snakes to take care of.
So, with the Herp Society and all of that, was it really hard just not to have like Noah's Ark going on, like one of a million species?
When I was a kid, that's what happened. Everything, because I worked at PetSmart for like a long time, like 4 years. I got a lot of animals from there. I got a lot from the Herp Society. It was like a rotating door of what I got in as a rescue or given to me to either get back to health or keep for myself or find a home later on. I never got to really focus on like what I felt like I really wanted, but also I didn't really know what I wanted. I just liked stuff. Everything was cool. It all caught my eye. But those two resources afforded me the ability to get animals for free. Unfortunately, sometimes they were under not the best circumstances, and the animals were in good shape. I mean, I can say I've owned an alligator because of that. But
Is there a story associated with that somewhere? How did you get an alligator?
they're not legal in Idaho necessarily, not without a
Wouldn't think
permit.
so. Yeah.
And so some guy had one, and he'd gone to the local lake, and he was going to turn it loose. And some kids literally convinced him not to do it. They had to pay the guy. Some children had to pay an adult $5 not to turn the alligator loose.
That's incredibly sad, but yeah.
And then when they got it, they called the zoo. And at the time, Dr. Wiggins was the veterinarian at the zoo, and she was part of the Herp Society. And she went ahead and asked me to watch the alligator for her for a while. And I think I was not too far out of high school. So I took it, and it was about 3 feet long, and I put it in the bathtub upstairs in my parents' bathroom. And my mom came home from work and started screaming at me when she went to go to the bathroom because I totally forgot it was in there. And yeah.
Yeah, isn't it wild how sometimes a kid can be much more considerate and like well educated than
Right.
this adult who probably bought the alligator in the first place. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's not the first time species haven't turned up places they shouldn't have been. They found like 75-pound Sulcata in a cornfield. Ones have gotten loose. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
The savanna monitors. I mean, stuff's happened. It's not like all the time, but since I was around and part of a resource for so long, I experienced what was coming through, and what we had to go pick up. Since I was younger and living with my parents, I was limited with what I would take on.
Yeah. Were your parents supportive in all this? At least, I mean, cool enough to where you didn't get kicked out of the house when you had an alligator in the tub, but.
No, I only had that thing for a couple weeks. He didn't live in the tub. I set up something else in my room. They were really patient with me. My dad's still afraid of snakes.
Really?
Oh yeah. But he doesn't. He can be more intrigued and fascinated by them, but he's not going to hold it. He's not going to do any of that stuff. But I gotta say, I appreciate my dad. Cause what I do for work is I sell guns. I work at a gun shop, and we've been swamped busy all year long. People like freaking out because of COVID and riots and elections, so everyone's buying guns like crazy. So I've been working so much. My dad actually built me the baby rack for these Candoya, which was really nice. He offered to do that. That's kind of a cool like throwback to being supportive with that. But they're really patient with me with the different animals that they didn't know were coming in the house would show up. And I had really good parents, luckily.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how you decided to, branch out and get this new project. And what got you into these boas in particular?
Way back in the day, I mentioned that lady Sue. Way back in the late 90s, Petco would get the craziest stuff in. And they had Candoya coming in all the time. And I always thought they were like the coolest thing. I always thought they're like so different looking. I always kind of wanted one. I just kept watching them. And then when I, 4 or 5 years ago, when I started keeping bloods, they were on my list to kind of watch. And I found Dan Mallory's videos, and I started watching those. And I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. I was like, the guy's kind of down to earth, not over the top. He's showing you kind of these really cool species you don't get to see much. And it goes to Thailand and stuff. And I was like, always impressed that like he was able to do these imports in somewhat of a wholesale manner, but respectably, and the animals were always very healthy and well taken care of. And I think he's always had that reputation of doing a good job on having imports that are ready to go. And you know, it just kind of lined up. And I was like, well, I think Dan is leaving for Thailand like the 23rd of this month. This is his last import from the Solomon Islands, and last import for quite a long time to the U.S. period.
And also, yeah, I was about to say the Solomon Islands shuts down and opens up kind of randomly. It could be a decade before you can get him again.
I was like, I'm at a point where my experience is there. I have the money. I was like, I'm not going to have the chance to buy from this guy again. I wanted to support him forever. I just wasn't sure. And I said, hey, pick out a female for me. Here's the money. And so he picked out a female and sent it to me. Mm-hmm. This is what I got, because you guys can find his video, DM Exotics. He had imported 21 Candoya paulsoni Solomon Island ground boas, and it was 20 looked to be gravid females and one male, and I was like, just send me one, whatever. And I had started to plan and buy supplies to take care of like 35 babies. And then I had the snake for I think like 9 or 10 days, and then I go in here, and there was a bunch of babies. Came home from work, sifted through the whole cage, and I counted 54 with no slugs and only like 2 or 3 unfertile ovum in there. And I was like, oh shit. And so I basically split them up into 2 B18 tubs with 27 in each in there. And they shed like within minutes of being birthed. They start shedding. So
that's wild. Yeah, and the crazy thing about that is, I believe it was Conway. What's who did all the articles back in the day of the Candoya. He had basically all the species, I guess subspecies at the time. But I believe he said that paulsoni have a gestation of 9 months, like at least.
That sounds correct. Yeah.
And it's like, so that means that animal got pregnant in the wild. She carried the babies that whole time, and then she was imported, and then she was shipped to you. And throughout all that, 0 slugs, 0 problems. Like, that's just kind of wild to me.
Yeah, I've never kept Candoya personally myself. I've always kind of watched from a distance. I've been in the groups for a few years, looking at pictures, reading things, and when I put her in here, I noticed in the tub a lot of draping. Like, so what she would do is she'd crawl around, and then she would take like the back third of her body, maybe about 6 inches, 8 inches up from her vent, and just kind of figure out a way to drape it across the water bowl edges. Like, she looked really uncomfortable, like she was trying to suspend the weight so it wasn't pressure. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, something tells me that it's uncomfortable and she's probably going to have babies soon. And unfortunately, I was right.
Yeah. So yeah, there's 9 months of wiggle room there, and you got 9 days.
Yeah. But I mean, luckily I'd already started to stock up and buy things, but I had to rush delivery some things. I didn't expect that many.
Yeah, and it seems like because we were talking about it, because like when I first saw that, it's like, oh, this is my opportunity. I know someone personally who has a litter, and I wanted to get back into them, and we were both like, these are gonna take a bit to get going, I'm sure, all that stuff, and it seems like not so much, huh?
I think I want to make sure everything's established. So in my mind, I'm telling myself 6-7 months before anything is even thought about leaving me, and getting in the groups and talking to people and looking at things. It looks like a lot of people seem to expect a lot of them to die, or expect a lot of them not to feed properly, and because they could be somewhat problematic feeders, from what it seems, because they like to eat lizards, frogs, and whatnot. But I mean, I'm not gonna have that mindset. It's not acceptable for me to have one of these die because I'm not willing to present them with the different and appropriate food items they want. I have now 100 pet anoles in another room that are live. And I have an order from Reptilinks with their microlinks made out of frog, another one made out of iguana, one out of quail. And I also have several hundred super tiny pinky mice. And I bought the fish scent. I think it's fish juice, then anole juice, and the frog juice from Reptilinks. And so I actually offered a variety of different foods to them today. And within a few minutes, I saw, I think 3 or 4 of them already wrapping up some of the scented pinkies.
Yeah, which
so
is
it was very promising.
Yeah, I mean, you must be pretty happy about that. So here we got some pinkies. So how exactly did you go about scenting these guys?
I literally, I guess you feed this juice is frozen, so you partially thawed out. So I literally squirted a little bit into a paper bowl, and I just took the pinkies out, and I just kind of dabbed them in the juice, put them in the little tiny condiment container, and put the baby in there and let them go. I just left them be, because I offered them a few of them, and they seemed to have little to no feeding response just by dangling them, like the blood pythons do. Totally different feeding style, which I had read and heard. So I definitely had seen several times where the people cupped them and left them. And so I went ahead and figured that was the least invasive, least stressful way for me to introduce food items to them, and trying to experiment and see where we're at on who eats what. And so tomorrow morning I'll go through and I'll pull all the cups out, mark who ate, and then see who didn't eat and who ate what. And then I have a feeling in about another 2 or 3 days, I'll probably just go through with pinkies, scented only, on everyone that didn't eat.
So you're going to slowly, so you're starting off with scented. And then for the ones that ate scented, are you going to keep on offering scented for a little while and get them established?
Yeah.
Or are you going to try to get them off of it?
You know, quick? I'm going to have the same kind of mindset of what I feel like I'm learning from the blood babies is get that momentum, get them into the routine of feeding, build that feeding response. And then once that feeding response is gone, I feel like it wouldn't be an issue to wean them off of that scenting. And even if I don't, it is super easy to dip frozen thawed pinkies into this juice stuff. So, I'm gonna do whatever I can that these animals want to keep them going. I really want to be successful. Just for these animals, they're super fascinating. They're all completely different looking. They're all different colors. It's really neat. They don't even look like the real snakes.
Yeah, man. So cool. It's between like the head shape and the patterns. There's just something very prehistoric about them.
What I noticed from them, from like some videos I was watching like on YouTube, because I think Elijah's Juggernaut just had a litter of like 38 a few months ago. And when in his video, before I had my babies, I noticed as soon as he goes to pick them up or opens the tub, they just all freeze. They don't move. That's exactly what they do. You just open the tub and they don't do anything. They just like pretend like they're a stick. And between like the ass or the bark and stuff that's in with them and the cocoa husk, I could barely find some of them just by like glancing. I'm only like a foot away. I had to open the tub and like look in there. The camouflage is astounding, but their behavior is quite different. I've reached out and I've spoken with Richard Crowley, which I believe you've talked to before. He's a huge Candoya guy, also a blood guy. So He's been really helpful to talk to, which is nice. And, I asked Dan a few things over email, and it's just pretty exciting to have something different. I really wasn't planning on having this many babies. I thought maybe in a month or two I might have some babies and it'll be kind of cool, but I'll get to experience the female. And I don't even know what the female looks like. She's still kind of like a dark brownish color. She hasn't shed out her jungle skin, so she's still got all the tannins in her skin. She's really dark. But the other thing I've always noticed,
if people aren't like familiar with how Candoya, when they are imported in, these are typically being brought in as wild caught animals, and therefore they're going to be like down in the leaf litter on the forest floor, and they soak in all the tannins from the leaves, and basically it stains their skin. So most of them come in rather drab looking, and then when they shed, you get what the animal would actually look like in captivity. So that female right there looks, she looks brown, but she'll probably shed out like a light gray coloration, hopefully, or maybe even
Yeah,
some
I'm
whitish.
thinking she's either like a gray or like a buckskin color, maybe, is my
Mhm.
guess. But I'm just literally guessing. And that's really what most of the babies look like. They're like a light tan, buckskin colored, but they change shade so much throughout the day. It's pretty cool. But
Oh, so
it's
you
pretty neat.
see different coloration at different times.
Yeah, that's one thing that I had read about the species is that their color swings throughout a day are so crazy. And I had read it in some different articles over the time that as people were caring for like fresh imports, throughout the day and the evening, they thought it was a different snake almost, and their relative, the Australis, I guess, is even huge, even larger swing on coloration, which is pretty cool. But I've just been trying to soak up as much information as I can. I've like found some old like papers written like back, I don't know, in the late 70s, 80s about studies of dead Candoya specimens. They cut open their bellies, see what they're eating. I watched YouTube videos like travel trips to the Solomon Islands to try and figure out what the vegetation looks like and the trees and everything. I've noticed behavior. A lot of the babies seem to like to perch on the edge of the water dish, which is pretty cool. And from some things I've read and seen, it seems like babies and up to juveniles might be actually more arboreal, which is pretty cool. But this is my first experience. I'm not an expert. I'm going off of what I notice and trying to like really read the snakes and see what they need and what they want, and also listening to what any advice people give me and reading any papers I can from people's experiences.
Yeah, I mean it's just really exciting to have something that first of all it's completely new and like out of the ordinary for what you keep, right? And like
Yeah,
it's just yeah, it's switching it up, but also kind of being thrown in the fire and having to rise up to the occasion and do all that. I mean, that must be also probably a little bit stressful, but also kind of a little bit fun in a way that you did it. You're
yeah. It
you're
was
partway
funny.
there.
I sent a little like gift to Graham Battison, and it says I've spared no expense, and it's the rich guy from Jurassic Park, and like I'm just like stocking up on all these crazy prey items, and like Richard was telling me I might need to get some minnows too, so I'm 5 minnows at the pet store potentially, but if I can get them going on scented pinks, I'll be really happy. But I feel really fortunate that things are going well so far, that the mom still seems healthy and things are going well, and I feel fortunate that it's at this time in my experience, knowing that I'm able to kind of read the animals and observe them a little bit better, that I built all my other racks in this room. So, I mean, I'm able and adept at building racks. And I mean, I don't know if I don't want to sell them to anybody, but like, I like to build them the way I like them. So I feel fortunate. Like if I need to change something, I will make something that fits what I think they need. And they also fit into my room's temps. They seem to like mid to high 70s to very, very low 80s. So very similar to the ambient temperature in my room. So they fit right in with the bloods.
So are you
Uh,
keeping them pretty much exclusively ambient?
the babies are, yeah.
Okay.
I know babies and bloods too are very sensitive to heat. So I temped down to the tubs before I put anyone in over there. So I basically set up some tubs on their own before I built the rack and left them over there. And I temped them throughout the day, and they were 78 to 82. I was like, okay, cool. I'll leave them alone.
Yeah, so you're falling right in that blood python range. Even with my room with corn snakes, that's my fluctuation as well. So I'm pumped. Now
Yeah.
you gotta. Sorry, I'm gonna annoy the shit out of you all the time about like, hey man,
So
you sure you don't want to sell those like in January,
no,
February,
shipping won't be ready.
March?
It'll be
Yeah,
cold.
Idaho is pretty rough, huh? That's not the best place
It
to get out of in the winter.
No, and I don't think anywhere is because almost everything goes to the hub, and then I mean I bought stuff from Sandboas from directly from the Bells years ago, and it got laid over in a snowstorm on the way from Florida to here, and I received them in the snowstorm a day later than they should have showed up. But I was able to, with between the reptile shipping providers and FedEx, talking to the people that worked in the offices, they just patched me right through, and I was talking to them, and they would go over to the shipping area, pull them off the belt, put them inside the office, which was heated for me.
Oh,
And
nice.
people went out of their way to make sure the animals were okay. They were cold, but one thing, there's a lot of learning experiences as you go, is that if you get a cold reptile that's still alive, give it a very, very long time to warm up. Do not shock the system from going from like 55, 60 degrees to 90 degrees in an hour. Like give it like 10 hours.
Right. And I mean, that's probably easy enough to go room temp and then,
Yeah,
into your room and then into whatever enclosure. It makes a whole
exactly.
lot of sense.
Since we're talking about this, and we've touched on Uromastyx and the society, I was called on once to go to an abandoned mobile home. And inside the mobile home was one of those old pet store display cages with the dividers. And there was a ball python, I think a corn snake, and a Uromastyx. And it had been no heat for over a month. And it was in late November, December. So, I mean, the house was only 45, 50 degrees. And they were all three alive. I thought the Uromastyx was dead because I picked it up and it didn't really move. But when I sat down, I just kind of saw like a really slow, delayed movement. And I was like, is he alive? And so, I put him in the box, put him in the car, and just driving around town. And he started to warm up and he started to go like, open his eyes and look around. And then it literally took like then a whole 12 hours. And then the next day we put him in a Uromastyx enclosure. My buddy did. We kept him at his house. And he ate like a whole bowl of food. And then like the next day he whipped me with his tail. He was a pretty spunky little guy. But like it was pretty crazy to see your Uromastyx go from like 45 degrees so no heat for over a month at least. I don't know what they were doing before, but no heat in the house at all, to eating and being at proper temps and being lively with no issues because of the slow graduational increase of temps. Pretty cool story. I always thought it was neat. Bad for those animals, but cool that they all lived.
Yeah, and I mean, you're looking at a 90-degree swing. I mean, that animal survived.
Yeah,
45
it was pretty
degrees to
crazy.
135. That's
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Do those animals brumate? Do Uromastyx brumate, or at least go through a
yeah,
seasonal
they
change?
yeah they kind of go through like a sleepy period, I guess. Man, there's some awesome Uromastyx groups on Facebook. And then the one picture you showed online was from a page that's not really around anymore. It's called Deerfern Farms, and they were like the forefront leaders on breeding a lot of the captive Uromastyx. But there's a lot more experienced people than I am. But you will notice that they don't come out as much or eat as much for weeks at a time. They're going through like a little sleepy period.
Yeah, and I mean the ball python. That's pretty rough, Adam. Now Do you have any like so as the Herpetological Society being a part of it? You guys also were doing rescues, or like it's just that you guys were one of the only contacts that people found, or how did you guys do that?
So it's like a multi-faceted group. Is that when Frank started it in 1987, it was only a resource for exotic reptiles. So he got all these weird and different reptiles people kept over the years that he got. He got a lot of Burmese pythons over the years, as that was the pet of choice way back. But we have a hotline number, so when people have if like one of like the actual Humane Society gets something, or other facilities or vets, they can give us a call and one of the members can go pick it up. It's more of like a network of people who are able to accommodate different species instead of putting the burden on a facility or one person. That's really what it's designed to do, which is nice. Then we do outreach. So, before all this craziness, we would go to different kids' fairs, school fairs, classrooms, do all those type of things, and talk with people and educate them. And then we'd have monthly meetings and have different topics we would talk to people about, or have different issues we would talk with. And then we've actually assisted the state Fish and Game with sting operations and with
Oh, wow.
confiscations and legislative development on different laws pertaining to exotic animals. So it's been a pretty really interesting and valuable source of experience for me personally. And any city or state that has a herp society, think with social media being so prevalent, they really go kind of on the wayside, unknown. And doesn't mean it's easy always having a society. And I think they really definitely goes in ebbs and flows, depending on who's willing to make the society whatever it is that they feel it should be. So if you got a lot of people that just want to show up and talk to snakes, maybe it's not living to its full potential. Oh my God, hold on. If you have people who are willing to put in a lot of groundwork and time and really like make flyers and go to classrooms, vets, everything, get the exposure out, reach out for different speakers, make contacts. You can make the society quite the valuable asset, or the organization in your area. Really depends on who's working it, and it is what you make it, as is any group or experience in life. And that's, I think, one thing people need to remember, whether they're making more snakes for the world or participating in a group online. It is what you make it. We may all have those knee-jerk reactions, get frustrated, upset, but are we always bettering ourselves and our community by our alerting what we think instantly? So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. And I think that not only rings true with your experience, but obviously look at like Madison Herpetological Society, where you have Ryan from Zilla, who has really spearheaded that, and that has become a big thing. That just it can hinge on a couple of people, and like you could be, that person, or you and your friend can be those couple of people that can really get these things going. And it's kind of up to us to make it happen. I think a lot of us complain that these kinds of things aren't around anymore, but I also think we could probably do more to make sure that they are around.
Yeah, and exactly. And I feel like I put time and effort into it over my years in and out of it. And over the last year, once Frank passed last year, I was pretty disheartened. And then with COVID and everything, and just not being able to meet people, and I had already decided at the beginning of the year this was going to be my last year, as I really wanted to focus on what I had going on and my own collection, which I feel like to me personally, it really shows that I'm focused and paying attention to more of what's going on in my room in my house, and I'm focused going on with a bunch of local reptile keepers in our community. I feel like it's paying dividends with my animals in terms of noticing lots of different little things, improving the experience animals are having. I'm actually producing clutches. I mean, I feel like I was able to spread my clutches apart at the times of years I wanted to. I wanted to spread them apart instead of having eggs only laid in like the spring, early summer, which was the general season eggs are laid. I was actually able to have the female lay eggs and on Halloween, which was my goal, which is pretty fun. And they'll hatch hopefully right on New Year's, which will be fun as well. And then I'll have more eggs about a month later after that, which will be pretty neat. I'll have a little bit of a space to get focused on each new group of babies.
Yeah. It seems like, I mean, it goes with most things, right? You kind of get what you focus on. So you're obviously shifting your focus in your collection a little bit. Say like, I know right now I'm kind of shifting my focus, and I think people ebb and flow in their collections all the time, and you go back and forth, you get into different things, you go higher and lower with your numbers. But like, I'm focusing now on a different style of keeping, of testing out different ways to keep animals and stuff like that. And then, so I need to, get my numbers down more. So it's too overwhelming right now with the numbers and trying to do that.
So I know, like, what do you feel like? Did you ever look back and think on your experience? Since I know you kind of got back into this with wanting to do ball pythons, essentially, hence your name. And you really didn't stay in that, and you really got into corn snakes, and now you're all about poop bugs. I mean,
I don't know if it ever ends. Yeah. There is no final thing. I'm not trying to, and I don't think I'm trying to put out the illusion that there is anymore. I think for a while I was going to be like, this is what I like. This is what I'm going to like forever. Now I'm realizing that like, I just follow my passion or what I like at the moment. And I keep a little piece of that. So like I kept the olive python, I kept the water python that whole time. I have a group of animals that I've had throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the main the main bulk of the collection, all the fat gets cut, and then I keep the animals that matter the most to me. And then I get new things, and then eventually I get too many of those, and then I cut out the fat, and then I keep the animals that mean the most to me. So I don't know. I'll end up having a giant collection of useless non-breeders, I'm sure. Or like, I don't know, because I have just a bunch of pet pythons that I don't have, pairs for necessarily.
That's okay. I mean, you don't have to have pairs for everything.
Yeah.
But I always think the contrast that you have is hilarious in my mind. That you got like you got a water python, which I love liasses, the olive, and then the corn snakes. I've always thought corn snakes are so much cooler than ball pythons. And then you're like, I'm gonna get into isopods. That's what's that. All these little bugs, crustaceans with different dots on them. They're gonna eat your snake's poop. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, and I was just looking at the rubber duckies today. I think I may have I don't know if they finally had babies. I've had like 6 in a deli cup for like a year, man. I've been waiting for them to do anything. So yeah, I mean, they're cool also. I'll probably, eventually I'll cut the fat with those too, and I'll have like just rubber duckies and clowns and zebras or something. I don't know.
So like, how does that go when you go on a date? And you're like, so what do you do? Like, I got these little poop bugs. One's called a rubber ducky.
Well, actually, I lead with the snakes. It was already bad enough, and then I get into geckos, and then like third, fourth, fifth date, maybe we get into the shit bugs, but like not until then. you gotta ease into it.
Yeah. When I was younger, I didn't really date, but when I got into horses, dating got so much easier for me.
Oh my, yeah, those are like, see, what sucks is that the snakes and reptiles in general are detractors. Horses are magnets. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a much better strategy, but I mean, I think it goes for, I'm sure like you have a girlfriend who wasn't necessarily into reptiles or into any of that stuff. And she probably realized this is what you're passionate about. This is what you love. And she's like, you're okay enough of a guy. I guess I'll tolerate it. And then eventually she's into it. And then it goes from there.
Yeah, I was kind of getting out of horses when we met, and I was more like big into hunting and archery, and she always liked snakes, so it worked out pretty well. I mean, we're both animal people, and I'm pretty lucky to have her because she makes a lot of things happen around here that affords me to do this in terms of help, like taking care of the dogs right now as they have to go outside, and 4 dogs go outside when it's snowing. Usually what I try to do when it's cold, but I really appreciate her. So it makes it easier for me in that aspect. But as things aren't always easy. People got to realize on unlike sometimes like your pets, like your dogs, cats, there is much more of an emotional bond between you than your snake and you. So you might have a life experience or event come up where you're not afforded the ability to keep reptiles anymore. And I think you can talk to almost every reptile keeper has had to go in and out of keeping reptiles because job change, family change, spousal change, something's happened.
It's but so unforgiving. Keeping reptiles is very unforgiving in a way, or animals in general.
Yeah, animals in general, but especially the reptiles. And as long as that flame is still flickering in the back of your mind, if you keep that passion, that fascination going, you can still make the most of it in your life, whether it is reading a whole bunch of reptile books or assisting a local rescue group or volunteering to help out a presentation for reptiles at a kid's classroom, if those ever become a thing again. There's a lot of things you can always do, even if you don't have your animals to help out others.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like, it's almost as if, the pilot light still burns. You can turn up the gas. Sometimes you kind of got to turn it down, but it's always there.
Yeah, I feel like my house is on fire right now if we're talking pilot light.
Yeah, you turn the knob for sure.
Yeah.
No, and it's I don't think it's ever anything to be ashamed about to like get down to a certain amount, or like, people, it's really the housing situations. You see that all the time on Facebook and stuff like that. I've
Yeah.
pretty much I have sacrificed a lot of things in like my personal life in order to make sure that I would always have a space for the animals, or like if we got in a weird situation, like even with the dog, like some people are like put on Craigslist, oh, I can't go into an apartment with my dog. Can someone take like no, dude, I will go above and beyond to try to find something that will allow my dog. I mean, that's
Right.
like a member of my family.
Exactly.
I mean, that's like it's like a human child. I don't have a human child, but I can imagine that I may almost love it as much as I love my dog. Almost.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever have kids. I mean, my parents are getting the experience of grand dogs between my brother and I, but man, I haven't had a dog pass on me in a very long time. So I have an older dog that's like 11 or 12, but she looks like she's gonna be going for quite a few more years. And whenever any of them pass, that's gonna be a week or two off work. I don't know. I won't do real well.
Oh yeah, Dixie's 9, and
Oh man,
yeah. So I haven't even, she's very
it's never
youthful.
fun to think about, but it's at some point you have to realize how old your animal is and make accommodations for their age, and then uh, it's never expected. Uh,
Dude, why do ball pythons live to 62 and dogs live 10 years? What is this bullshit? Like,
I think ball pythons are super cool. I think ball pythons have a bad rap because of the
I'm not shitting on ball
flash.
pythons. I'm just saying
I
dogs are
know.
better.
I know. I'm just saying in general, so many people in different other groups outside of ball pythons rag on ball pythons. But I think what happened is when the money makers, the flash in the pans, gave the ball python group, so to speak, such a bad rap that there's some really dedicated keepers out there, but it's all overshadowed by the people who got in and out of it, in and out, in and out, in and out over 6 months, and just overpopulated the industry with lesser, well, not lessers, but lesser quality ball pythons. Because, how often did people selectively breed their pastels to only have the nicest ones?
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't. They just made as many as they could make.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason that it turns me off is that the motivation is different than I think I like to think of as far as like us keeping and breeding animals, or at least
Yeah.
how I want to think about it. Like I asked Casey Cannon today, like how are those Zio River he has locality ball pythons from Stephen
Hell
Tillis,
yeah.
because Stephen Tillis was over there in Africa, and he has like legit locality, which is like I can get down with something like that, because it's like it's so niche, it's so there's going to be 90% of people that are going to be like, that's so stupid.
Have
But
you
then
ever
the
seen
10% of
those?
people who get it.
Have you seen those Volta or sub-Saharan ball pythons? They get like a blood python size.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Those, why
huge.
aren't those like everywhere? Those are the coolest things ever.
And the thing is, they import them like a little bit too much. I don't know if you like every year. I feel like I see them imported, but
Yeah,
I
they
don't
come with
see
like
them around.
gravid females.
But I've never seen babies for sale, captive born and bred babies. I'm sure they're out there, but
Yeah. But yeah, I was like, oh, the baby's born like 3 times the size of a regular ball python. Like it's huge and it's tame. I'm like, oh, that's the coolest pet.
dude, pick up a pair.
No thing.
Come on. They fit right into, well, not really. Ball pythons need
I
hot
hear.
spots.
I think Dan Magano has a pair.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just giving him shit. He doesn't have ball python.
I didn't know he was a ball python hater.
Nah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the chat anymore. But I mean, it's
Oh,
but yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, I saw this crazy like striped white and yellow albino thing today that I like. That's a ball python. It has nothing to do with the animals. The animals seem fun and all good stuff. I've
yeah.
kept plenty
I
of them.
mean, I have a banana in my room now.
Oh,
We went to
really?
a reptile expo. My girlfriend wanted the banana, so we have one of those.
That's yeah, that thing is bananas are just bait for like any younger the kids that are getting into it like that. They catch your eye so easily.
Yeah,
Like
it's pretty
everyone
cool.
cool looking, man. Yeah, everyone can
I freak
enjoy it.
out because every time I open the cage, there's more black specks on it, and I'm like, oh shit, where do these mites come from? And I put it under the magnifying glass, and like, oh, it's a dot.
Yeah, that is the weird thing about them, right? They just freckle out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got the reverse stripe Cali King as well that she got. So it's like all white with a thin black stripe on its back. It's really cool.
Dixie's she's breaking down my wall back here.
Oh man.
The wall to my cabin. What are you doing, girl? She literally just came over here. What are you doing? But yeah, man, we did it. Before Dixie knocks down the set, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on? Did I forget anything?
I feel like you and I should start a group for vegan reptile keepers because apparently there's quite a few of us. Like
I'm not.
Me,
After my
Garrett,
surgery, no, I'm not. I started eating meat after my surgery. I couldn't do it. It was too hard because I couldn't like get up and cook or do anything. So I went meat eater.
Oh geez. Yeah, there's a faux Vietnamese place that opened up across from my work. They didn't know me by name when I call. I eat there every day. They have some
you can really lean on I guess it's a lot better if you live in a city with like some culture because like Indian food, obviously they have so many vegetarian options and vegan options.
Yeah.
And like different Vietnamese foods or like you can get ramen or something as long as you avoid the chicken flavored stuff. And like there's definitely good things to eat. You just gotta try a bit harder.
And,
being lazy.
One thing I really wanted to come across during our talk is you heard me talk about a lot of people's names. Specifically, I called them out or give them recognition. And I think that's really important to just appreciate the people that gave you their time as you were beginning and or even now as you experience a new species or something that's going on and they help you out or they give you the time of day or they give you advice when you're buying a snake from them. I really just wanted to try and recognize everyone I could think of off the top of my head that's helped me out. That's been really, really good to me. So that was, to me, more important than me getting any kind of spotlight or attention. I don't have a website. I don't have a fake business Facebook page.
Everyone has a business. Come on. What are you talking about? Fake business.
No.
We're all.
I mean,
you sold 2 blood pythons this year. Come on. You're a businessman.
To my buddy. Yeah, to my other buddy, Josh Saville. But the snakes are fun. I've been afforded to make some internet friends and some real life friends and have some pretty awesome experiences that, there's a lot of things that, experiences I've talked about or I have forgotten that, if my life was any different, I would have never been able to experience these things and experience these, to some extent, rare animals. When I was younger, for example, this lady came with like 4 or 5 shingleback skinks in like 2000 and did a presentation at our Herp Society. And it was like the coolest thing. It was the only time I've ever seen a shingleback skink. She's like, I think this one's legal and these other 3 were illegal at one point, but they're here now. And it was pretty cool. I don't remember her name at all, but it was like such a fascinating thing to like see him, look at him, hold them and experience it. I feel like it was kind of like the Wild Wild West back in like the late 90s, 2000s in terms of really uncommon, rare things being more accessible than now. Things would just show up randomly all the time. It was pretty darn cool. And you didn't never know who was keeping what, and we weren't posting about it all over Facebook or anything. So it was pretty neat experience, and like I'd never expected to see those in life, or knowing that there's a poison dart frog breeder in our area, or pretty cool stuff. I'm dying. Like, have you ever watched was it Good Morning with Kathy Lee and Hoda? There's that Corbin Maxey reptile guy. He came to the society meeting. He's from Boise.
Oh,
He came
really?
to the meetings when he started coming when he was like 8. And they started doing all these little shows around here, and he started doing like a public access TV show, and then he started traveling to all like late night talk shows, and now he's got like a gig where he's on national TV all the time, and he's a
That's awesome.
biologist. But like part of that is when he started going to the reptile meetings, but more people know who he is because he's on national TV. You know, he's a nice guy. He's came to the meetings before COVID happened, but it's pretty cool to see someone who came when I was in high school. He was like 8 or 10. He was a short guy. He was a kid, and he had like all this energy and he's all excited, and it's pretty amazing. He still had the same alligator that he got way back then now, and it's huge. But I'm not real tight with him, but I know him, and it's pretty cool to see just someone make the most of their experience, like I said before. And
And
he's
it's
a
also
biologist. He goes on
having
TV.
it's having the society to kind of also push that along as well and get together with like-minded people. It definitely doesn't
Yeah.
hurt.
And a lot of the people that were pretty advanced back then are retired or moved on from then. So I think now, I think that's a lot of places we're kind of in a lull for a while. And I feel like until like the kind of country opens back up, people are able to gather again and socialize. I maybe a lot of societies will struggle for a while in terms of staying relevant and having material to cover as a group.
Well, I'm
But
hoping that this at least gets us stuck at home thinking about our animals.
yeah,
Maybe, what we see now in the hobby now, which is nice. We're getting more of the mentality in which people are establishing things that are, commonly imported. People are breeding more and more species all the time. We're getting more and more captive bred stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think the future is bright for what we do, and it's exciting.
oh yeah. I mean, now if you can't go do stuff, you have time. You can go look for Bigfoot. That's real. That's why I wear this shirt for Owen McIntyre right here. But
That's Bigfoot crossing for anyone
yeah,
who is on the
yeah,
audio
exactly.
version.
Small story is a guy came into the gun shop about a month and a half ago, and he was all shook up. He just came back from hunting, and he's up in the mountains, and he's like, "Man, the craziest thing happened." And I go, "Well, what happened?" He's like, "Oh well, I was done hunting for the day. I was back at camp. I'd fallen asleep, and at like 3 a.m, I just hear this god awful howl. Like it freaked me out so bad. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a wolf. I don't know what it was. It was so weird. It sounded so crazy. I got up right away. Left the tent about like 30 minutes later, and I looked for tracks. There was no hoof prints. There was nothing. Couldn't find anything. It freaked me out real bad. So he said the same thing happened to him the next night. And so when he was in here, I could tell he was shooken up. And then while he's telling the story, I looked at him and go, "Is it Bigfoot?" He's like, "What do you think it was Bigfoot? Why do you say that?" Like he was like legit had a Bigfoot encounter, and he was buying a revolver to protect himself to go back out and hunt.
Nice,
No.
nice. Yeah, I mean, you guys have wolves. Have you out hunting? Have you seen wolves?
Oh yeah, yeah. When they reintroduced wolves to the Pacific Northwest, it's a different species. They're way larger, a lot more aggressive feeders. They are not in danger whatsoever.
I was about to say, is
They
it getting to the point where you're starting to get tags for them, or are
Oh
they
yeah,
still
you
protected?
can just buy an over-the-counter tag for them and go collect one. Um, they are big. We've got one taxidermy in the shop. People think it's a bear because it's like
Wow.
right next to a bear, and it's the same size as a black bear.
Holy shit, man. Yeah, it's a big canine.
Yeah, yeah, they're not small. They're freaky when you're out hunting and you hear them start howling, and it gets getting dusk, and you're like, "Oh, I gotta go."
Yeah, I mean, you guys just have true wilderness, which is
Yeah,
something that like we just do not have here on the East Coast.
the funniest thing you gotta think about that. We've got black bears, grizzly bears, mountain lions, wolves, wolverines, badgers, and then we got a rubber boa.
Yeah, you are pretty light on the reptiles, and what you do have a little derpy, not as intimidating as.
It's not the only snake we have, but that's it's just kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, man, you trade off mammals for cold-blooded animals a lot of the times in these places. So
Right.
I would say, I mean, you have elk and stuff, right?
Yeah, we have elk. And we have
Yeah.
white-tailed deer, mule deer. Yeah, there's quite a bit. A lot of people go hunting up here. Not a lot of people get anything, but the experience is fun. I've only collected one animal ever, but the experiences and memories with my friends and my dad are something I'll never forget. Um, but it's fun being out in nature and just seeing how things work, and you feel pretty humbled when you are walking on a trail and you come back through it and there's big old cat prints that have been stalking you and you didn't realize it.
Wow. Yeah.
So
I can
it's
imagine.
sketchy.
Yeah. So do you do like multi-day hunts, like backpacking, or how does it work?
We usually like drive into an area and set up camp right next to like the truck, and then we'll go walk around for a few miles and then come back to camp at night. Never really done the backpack style. Have some friends that do that, but I didn't go hunting this year. Just busy at work, and I was like, what am I going to do if I kill an animal? I don't eat meat right now. This is pointless. But
See, I thought you would make an exception. So you're 100%
I
vegan.
probably would. I would make the exception. I feel like the meats that are out there, that the wild meats are more healthy than
Yeah.
whatever's at the store. But I wasn't always vegan. It was a thing my girlfriend wanted to do to try and be healthier, and I started doing it, and I lost a bunch of weight, stopped having migraines, and worked out pretty good. I'm pretty crappy at it though. I eat cookies like nonstop, and I know there's eggs and milk in there.
Yeah, like I definitely had like much less digestion issues and stuff. Like now,
Right?
yeah, when I eat normally, like just without I eat pretty clean, but like yeah, just meats and stuff, digestion and like bloating and yeah, and I'm lactose
Right,
intolerant,
right.
so yeah, being vegan
Yeah,
was just
it was easy. I'm like a deer. I have like little deer poops. They're real easy right now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think, I'm sure it works for some people better than others and all this thing. Everyone's different,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I would definitely consider doing it again. I'm all for it. If you could do it, man, go for it.
right. Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean, hopefully,
everything's so much less calorically dense and much more nutrient dense, like as a generalization, unless you're eating cookies. But yeah, for the most
yeah. Yeah, I found out I like love Asian food. I eat like Thai food, Vietnamese food, like non-stop. It's bad.
hell yeah. I mean, at least you can get those out there, at least you're in a place where you can get that kind of stuff. But yeah, man.
Don't you live in
So
like where do you live? Pennsylvania?
yeah. But say if I was living in Oswego, New York, where I was living, say like 6 or 7 years ago, which is why my company is called Port City, by the way, because that's what's considered the port city. Dude, like you would not be able to get anything. You wouldn't even be able to go to the grocery store and get like vegan alternatives or anything like that. Like you would just you'd have to be like raw food vegan, like
Yeah,
hardcore,
I
or
guess
go to Syracuse to get your shit.
what's been happening in Boise for last 10 years, but a lot in the last like 3 years is people moving from California up here. So that's afforded a lot of different options for me to eat. Huge downside is that they
There's
sell their
people from
house down there
California.
for a buttload of money. They come
Yeah.
up here and they pay like way over asking price on the houses in cash. It's like housing market's gone up like 200% in a couple of years, and I can't afford a house now.
Yeah, I mean that's what when I was in Colorado, there's a whole like Colorado native, like they have like they have stickers on their trucks and stuff to be like, fuck
Right?
you, Californians. Like
Pretty
they're
much.
they don't love Californians, but yeah, I mean same thing's happening here with like people moving from New York because they don't want to be in that big of a city, going to a little bit smaller of a city, get a little bit more space, and they just overpay for everything.
Yeah, I don't know the jobs. I mean, I make good money, but the jobs don't reflect the proportional influx in housing at all. Luckily, the
Yeah.
people we rent from are really cool, and they like us. So they've kept our rent really sustainable and affordable.
Yeah, that was particularly difficult in Colorado. Like none of the pay wasn't great, and the housing was just going up and up. And I was so poor in Colorado. I would live there if I could, man.
Yeah, it's just because you want to do the shrooms. I mean, you don't have to lie.
I can move to Oregon. I can do heroin.
They've decriminalized like everything. Oh my God, they're the worst neighbors.
But the worst neighbors. It's nice. It's nice to look out your window and see a mountain every day and be like, there's something out there besides just this bullshit that we drudge through every day. Just human shit.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We got the city, and like basically within an hour, I can be way up in the mountains. I can be at a lake. I can be out in the desert. I can be in a canyon. It's a pretty cool area. That's why everyone comes here. And we do have all 4 seasons, but generally it's just super hot in the summer, and then it's just cold and dry. Not a lot of snow in the valley.
Yeah, man. Well, it was great finally having you on the podcast.
Yeah.
Dixie's ruining the set again.
It's all right, man.
So any way if people want to get in contact with you, can they find you?
No.
No.
Pretty much. My profile has little to do about snakes on Facebook, and I don't post anything on Instagram. But no, you can find me. I'm on Facebook. I got a picture of me holding a fake Stanley Cup from when I won a championship team with my hockey team, and otherwise I'm like in all the different blood python groups. That's mostly where I am. I'm nowhere else.
Yep. So go check Kyle out. Go keep an eye on what he's got going. I know you've been posting pictures in like the NPR chat and stuff like that of the little Candoya babies. I think that's where I first saw them. Yeah,
all these people that are into green trees and carpet pythons are like, what the shit? What's this thing?
No, I mean there's crossover there, right? Especially, and it's weird, like you have blood python people who are also in a Candoya and stuff like that, but there's not many corn snake people in a Candoya. So but I'm gonna make the leap. But if anyone wants to, please go check out our sponsors at focuscubedhabitats.com. Go check out their enclosures. These amazing green tree enclosures that they're making for all those chondro snobs out there. Go check those out, because it's like it's high end. Like, I don't know if you've seen those, like the carbon perches and stuff like that, and it like the shiny mirrored front. It's like a Ferrari for like
I saw them. They look pretty cool.
Kind of.
I think some of those enclosures that they make would do really well for different Candoya species.
Yeah, and I think what I'm gonna do, I would love to set up a cohab, like a pair cohab, all naturalistic or something like that. I don't know if that's offensive to some.
I mean, I could say it a third time. I mean, if you put 2 animals together, you have more or less animals.
Hey, it works that way too, doesn't it? Damn it. You're making it sound less appealing. But if you guys want to check out what I have available corn snake wise, portcitypet.com. I have isostrate, I have biostrate, bioactive substrates, and isopod substrates, all that good stuff. A bunch of different products, Repashy products. So please go check those out. Kyle, it was nice talking to you, and I'll catch everyone next week.